author of Malding, Cyberdawn, and Inspector Flatfoot stories, and I'm here with another creative writing tip. Today's topic, we're going to see about combining fantasy and science fiction. Now, combining those two genres, it seems almost diametrically opposed. You don't see it done too often, and in most cases, it's not done all that very well. You'll see one guy with his ray gun and somebody else with his magic wand, and that's pretty much it. So outside of an ancient episode of He-Man, you really don't get anything halfway decent. However, I've done it several times. My Malding series is actually mainly fantasy with some science fiction elements. Cyberdawn is sort of the other way around. So I've done a lot of work combining the two. And today I'm going to give a few tips as to how also you can do in your own stories. So first off, you have to define things. Like, how are you defining magic? You know, don't just simply do the old, well, it works because it's magic. Everything has to have its own internal logic. For myself, I define magic as another force in the universe, and it's manipulated through the mental efforts of the wizard, just like in some ways sort of related to certain psychic abilities. Now, in your universe, it may be, you may have it where they have to support this by way of certain words and gestures, maybe a few magic powders or something. But however, it's done, keep it consistent. If you see them using the words and powders or whatever for one instance in there, then they have to be doing some variation of that throughout the entire thing. Exceptions would be, say you have different schools of magic, where one requires more gestures and magic potions than the other. Or if you have it specifically stated in the story that, hey, the young punk wizard over there found a better way of doing it, then do so. But treat it basically sort of like a science. It has to have something specific backing it. It has to have its own internal logic. To picture it like a wizard is using his mind sort of like a transistor. He's using a small voltage of his mind to draw upon the greater powers around him. So at least in my worldview, that I have it in there. The power isn't really inherent in the wizard. He's drawing it from around him, and that effort of drawing means he gets tired, he gets worn out. So you keep that consistent. Now on the science fiction angle, it has often been said, I believe Arthur C. Clarke, that any technology of high enough advancement is akin to magic. And so there's that angle, but tech, the science fiction part, just like magic, has its own limitations. The ray gun doesn't always hit. You have to point it. It takes a certain amount of time to make these things. So basically, well, the rules you can have in science, there's a lot more examples of that out in the world. You just keep those consistent, and then combining with the magic, like I said, treat that like another force. Everything has its own limitations. And certain obvious laws, will apply to both, like the whole equal and opposite reaction. That applies in science and physics, but you can also have it apply in magic. That lightning bolt that the wizard shoots out, there may be ways of deflecting it. If you have some tech guy with a force field, it's going to affect lightning, whether it's magically conjured up or not, or if he has a simple lightning rod, or things like that. So it's not to say that certain rules of science and mechanics can't apply to the results of magic. The magic part is how he conjures it up. Once the effect is out there, if it's fire, lightning, or what have you, then it bumps into certain limitations there. Now, the tech event, as you're mixing them, you have to consider the various limitations on each of them. For instance, a guy with like stormtrooper armor, that's not going to be able to stop much if a wizard can just change it to pudding. But don't treat that like an automatic thing. Say, for instance, certain materials may be more resistant to physical changes than others. Now, whether those physical changes come from some transmutation ray off of some super science or from a magic spell, that doesn't matter. If it's resistant to a certain type of change, then it's resistant to a certain type of change. So maybe in certain higher tech armors or denser types, the wizard in the story may have a bit more trouble and so have to resort to something else. On the other hand, on the science fiction part, a tech is only as good as the guy using it. So if you have an enchantress coming along and doing a charm spell on him, that's going to be something we're assuming that goes through the air, eye contact, that sort of thing. So all his force fields and stuff aren't really going to do any good. Now that's when you have them opposing. When you have them, say, on the same side, you have a blaster gun. It's obviously tech. And you have a wizard coming along, he carves a rune on it, so that now when the blaster bolt goes out, it actually hones in on the target. So you have the amusing consideration that your blaster bolt will actually turn corners as it's following the target along. That would be the magic angle of it put onto a tech item. Or say you have a medieval castle. It's medieval except the science guys got and put rebar in there and reinforced with more high-tech methods. And the wizards came along and put some magical runes here and there to protect the whole place. And so the end result is you have something that looks sort of medieval styled, but it can have, advanced indoor plumbing, maybe magic helping getting rid of like bathroom waste and little conveniences like that to add for a sort of blended style. Now, on mixing creatures from either genre, that's the easiest part of all. I mean, what difference is there between, from the fantasy angle, having to fight a dragon versus in the science fiction angle, having to fight some giant space toad from Alpha Centauri 3? There's none. A monster is a monster. If you fight it with tech, magic, or some artful combination of both, that doesn't matter because you still have a story going. And my favorite part is normally we have plenty of examples of the guys coming down on the spaceship to a primitive society, and that's been played out. On Maldine, second book, for instance, I do it the other way around. The person comes down and crashing in a spaceship. She sees all these guys with like staffs and stuff, and like, oh great, I'm in some primitive outfit. But primitive is all relative because from the point of view of the fantasy guys, they see this guy that doesn't know so much as a cantrip, doesn't know any magic spells, doesn't have any protection, and they're looking at the tech guy going, hey, you got some great implements there like a dwarf might make, but you look kind of primitive. And so that puts it on the other foot, where you have the science fiction angle going, but I'm the guy with the super science, and the other one going, yeah, but we're the guys with the magic, and from our point of view, you're primitive. So that can lead itself to some interesting interactions on that. And in the particular scene I have, it gets out fairly humorous. In fact, I do part of the scene from the point of view of the aforementioned spacer crashing, and I did up the entire scene, and then the dialogue from um, the fantasy characters on Maldine, I translated that completely into Maldine words. So it's all from the point of view of the other person hearing all this Maldine gobbledygook, which you could look up in a dictionary, until a translation spell comes along, which is another thing that throws our tech guy for. It's like magic exists. And it's like, yeah, alongside, all that tech stuff that you're doing. So you can have some interesting encounters, both when they're meeting and uh, both on the same side. Or if a wizard opens up a portal and it drops them in the middle of a spaceport, who is that going to be shocking to? Or is it going to be shocking to anybody? The spaceport is used to people dropping in from other places. They might be used to them having actual ships under them, or maybe it's a spaceport where they have a mix of things. Like over there is your Carillion cruiser parked, and and on the other docking bay that looks like a normal sailing ship, just sort of floating off the ground using magic. Um, and especially if it's a high enough evolved science, it may not seem all that strange to the wizard. And the local science fiction tech guys may see, oh, he opened up some sort of transdimensional portal with some science we don't understand. So the higher the science, the more accepting that they might be. They may not believe it's this thing called magic, but you can still have them interact like that. Um, yeah, so the idea when you blend the two, keep your rules on either side of it consistent, and then be creative when you blend them. You can have artfully done stuff. Probably a good example is if you look at uh, Star Wars, for instance. When you get down to it, that's a blend of science fiction and fantasy. There are things they don't call magic; they call it the Force or whatever. But when you come down to it, that's basically space wizards. And there's other ways that you two can use to blend the two. I love mixing genres. I leave right in the straight stuff to somebody else. I'll take the science fiction, sprinkle some magic in there, or take the fantasy, sprinkle some tech in there, and you can come up with some entertaining possibilities. Just remember, they don't they when they are in competition with each other, like two disparate societies, just like any other society's meeting, and and each has its strengths and its weaknesses. And then we're on the same when they're both on the same side blending together, you can have some very interesting reactions or interactions. Just remember, don't go the old hokey my ray gun versus your magic wand. That isn't combining anything. Anyhow, that's my writing tip for today. Stay tuned to this channel. There will be more in the future. Again, this is Mark Anthony Tierno, author of Maldine, signing out.